Hey everyone, my name is Gavin, and this will be part 2 of my how to make an RPG in Blender. And in this one, we're going to make a simple dialogue section. So I'm just going to get started. So to start off, you want to make sure that you've still got these lines lines right here, this little dialogue script that we have, and you want to make sure it's saved in the same Blender or in the same folder as your Blender file or your RPG game. All right. Next, what we're going to do is on our NPC object, we want to actually have it so that if the player selects to have a dialogue interaction, I'll just do the space bar, that it's going to stop the player's movement. So let's add a keyboard sensor like this, and let's have it be space and space bar. Let's also add a message sensor, and I'll call this message sensor resume with tap, and let's have resume like this. So the subject of the message will be resume. Connect both of these to your Python controller like this. And what we're going to do is now define these. So what's going to happen right here is we're going to define the resume and the space. So resume is going to equal controller.sensors resume, and then space is going to equal controller.sensors space. Now the important thing with the resume is what's going to happen is if resume is positive, so if we've ended our dialogue option, we're going to have the resume message send, and it's going to resume the player's active ability so he can move around, and that's why it's going to be useful. So what I'm going to do right here is have an else statement, and the reason why we're going to have an else is we're going to test to make sure if resume is positive. So if resume.positive, we're going to do const.activate, or not const.activate, we're going to set player active is going to equal true. So this is assuming right here that the player is talking, so the active is false. So we receive the resume message, and it's going to reset his ability to move to true. All right, and what we're going to have right here is have if the space.positive right here, we're going to have player active is going to equal false. So if the player is near the NPC and selects spacebar to get to instantiate a conversation or initiate a conversation, it's going to take away the ability for the player to move. Oops, sorry about that. So I'll hit P right now, and I'll move close enough, and I'll hit the spacebar, and you see I can't move anymore. And actually, if we right-click on the player and click this eye right here, and do game and then show debug properties, we can see in the top left corner it's saying the player is active, but I'm going to initiate a conversation, so he's no longer having the ability to move. Alright. Now there is one more thing we have to do on the NPC, which is we need to add 2 more scene actuators. So this first one is going to be seen like this, and this one is going to be seen like this. And I'm going to call this add dialogue, and then this one's going to be remove dialogue. For the add dialogue, let's add an overlay scene, and let's have dialogue scene, and then remove scene, dialogue scene. So both of these are important because we want to make sure that we're going to be able to talk to the NPC. So let's define those two actuators. So let's go right here. Add dialogue is going to equal controller to actuators. Add dialogue. Remove dialogue is going to equal controller to actuators. Remove dialogue like this. And one thing that we're going to have right off the start is if the player is moving around, there's no need to have the dialogue message displaying. So let's just do controller.activates remove dialogue. Alright, and if the player is true, so if the player is talking to our NPC object, we're going to do const.activates add dialogue. So what we should see right here is if we move up to our NPC, we should see text display right here, and that's because text is the message that is in our dialogue scene right now. But one thing we also want to have is have if we're talking to our NPC objects, we actually want to deactivate remove interact. So we want to take away the interact message when we're talking to our NPC. So I can move up, and we should see text right there. Alright, let's go into our dialogue scene right now and hit 0. And what I'm going to do is create a script for a dialogue scene. So let's do templates Python, and then game logic simple. Delete the portion I have highlighted, and I'm going to call this dialog script.py, and I'm going to add a game property, and all of this is on our text object. The game property I'm going to call current line, and let's have it be an integer, and let's have an add sensor always, and let's add a sensor keyboard. This keyboard sensor will be renamed to space with tap selected, and the key will be spacebar. Alright, next what we're going to have is add a Python controller and connect these like this. And what we're going to do is add our dialog script right here. Now we want to actually be able to read the lines of dialogue from this dialog file right here, this text file. So let's import logic from the BGE. Import logic from BGE. And let's have path is going to equal logic dot expands path like this. And then inside of our main function, what we're going to do is define our spacebar sensor. We're going to have a variable called current line. Number is going to equal own current line. All right. And now that we have this, what's going to happen is let's have just above this variable right here. What we're going to have is have if space dot positive. We're going to have own current line is going to plus equal 1. So essentially what this is saying is that every time we hit the space bar, it's going to go on to the next line of dialogue. All right. Underneath this, let's do file is going to equal open, and we're going to open a path to dialog.txt, and we want to read information from that file. Alright, we're then going to have info is going to equal file.readLines, and it's important to have read lines so that we're actually reading individual lines and not individual characters. Alright, then what we're going to have do is have the current information, or actually not that, we're going to have own.text is going to equal a string version, so a string, and we want to have info and then current line number. Alright, and this may be confusing, but essentially what this is saying is that an info, and let's say the current line number is equal to 0, essentially it's saying the own.text is going to equal whatever line 0 is. So if we hit P right now, we should be able to see that there's an error really quick. Let me check. Let me do from BGE import logic. Okay, there we go. From BGE import logic. That's my mistake. I apologize. So we've got this, and we can see every time I hit the spacebar, it's going to go on to the next line, like this. And then there's no more lines after that because we're done. Alright? And yeah, what we should probably do is have right here, have a try and a catch around this, or try and accept. Because there's a possibility that there is no line 4, we want to have try and accept, because if it doesn't work, we can just say print. Well, actually, if there's no more lines, we can just do own.text is going to equal end. So we should be able to see that if we hit play now, we can go, and then on line 4 it'll just say end. Or how about end of script? All right. Now that we have this, what we're going to do is if the current line, so if space.positive and the current line is equal to 4. So if we're done with the script and if own current line is equal to 4, we're going to do own.send message resume. Now if you remember, resume sets that game property back to true, our player property. So this is important because if we go back into our main scene like this, and if we hit P to play, we should be able to walk up and where it says interact right here. I'm going to hit spacebar. It's going to initiate our dialogue conversation. How are you? Are you going there today? All right, please come again. And then when we're done, it should work. Let me check something really quick. Oh, one thing that I think might be going wrong is back on our NPC. All right, player active is now equal to true. Actually, let me test this one more time. Yeah, it's going back to false for some reason, which could probably mean yeah, that's strange. Oh, I think I know what's happening. Let's go back into our dialog scene, hit 0, and let's change this to something else. Like, let's just have this be a mouse sensor and left button, even though it'll say space, because I think it's reading it again and saying initiate conversation one more time. So he uses the mouse sensor to go again, and yeah, this will work this time. Alright, so this is how you make a simple dialogue exchange in an RPG game with Python and the Blender game engine. I hope you guys find this very useful. I will be doing more stuff with what's it called, RPG games in the future, but for now I think this will work because it's something that has been requested, and I'll just show you the script just for one more second. This is a longer tutorial than usual, so I can't do too many at one time. Alright, so here's the scripts for the NPC. I will now switch to the dialogue script. Here's the script for the dialogue. Alright, I will now switch to the player movement script. And here is the script for the player movements. Alright everyone, I hope you guys find this very useful. Thanks for watching and have a great day.